Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a paid advertising. TheOnlyGround.com, the THE onlyground.com is one of the most amazing places for information that I consistently go to. If you guys want to have conversations about our old interviews or even topics that we don't discuss, the group of people that are on the onlyground.com message boards are some of the most brilliant that I have ever come across. Those little like knick-knack facts that we get here and there, that's where a lot of it comes from. Please check out the link in the bio.
Welcome to the show. I am MMA insider and Herb Dean's dog sitter, Joey Venti, and you're listening to the MMA History Podcast, the only podcast dedicated 100% to the preservation of mixed martial arts history. Interviews and stories about the early days of MMA direct from the men who lived it. Hundreds of interviews, thousands of hours of research, all conducted by the most obsessed mind in the business, the MMA detective Mike Davis. Join us as we document the history of the sport we all love. Welcome back to the MMA History Podcast. I am Joey Venti. I'm with the host of the show, Mike Davis. He is the MMA detective. I am Herb Dean's dog sitter, and today we have a special episode for you. Our guest today was the winner of the Ultimate Fighter Season 6, a veteran of Gladiator Challenge, the UFC, and most promotions in between. Welcome to the show, former lightweight contender and scariest vegan in the world, Matt Danzig.
Matt, so are you still a vegan?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were like the first athlete. Okay. Selfishly, like on my end, we never touched on this topic like in the first conversation. Mm-hmm. And when we showed that like we were airing your episode, I can't tell you how many messages I got through Instagram and text message and even like a few on YouTube going, "Oh, you guys are going to talk about him being a vegan." You know, you can see the timestamp. You got 2 hours in there. There's vegan all over it. This might be the first time having a conversation with a vegan that Joey, it was not mentioned.
That's right.
I don't mind. It not because I got any problem talking about it. I don't. It's just I got pigeonholed, like if you're the guy that does something or has something that's a little bit unusual, boy, the fans, the journalists, everybody just runs with it. I can't even tell you how many times I've been asked, where do you get your protein? And it's like, I don't even want to ask the question. It's just like, I don't mind talking about it. It's just, that was always the main topic, and people are always so interested in that. And so, I've spent, I don't know how many years now kind of being reclusive and not really doing interviews or anything.
It's true.
And kind of like staying out of the whole thing. Like I have a social media thing for my gym, but other than that, I don't really do social media. I kind of got off all that stuff. And so I haven't been talking about it for a while. So
I got a question.
I've got a little bit of like freshness. Like I
Okay.
could probably answer some questions
You could
about
probably
it.
muscle. Okay. Well, here, when you look at your career that we talked about it, excuse me 1 second. In the first episode, your first speed bump was your draw against Jason Von Flue.
Mm.
Now, when I kind of look through your history, it appears that that's your first fight as a vegan.
I don't think I was vegan yet. I believe I wasn't. I'm not exactly 100% sure about this, but I think it was my fight against Akbar Arreola in Mexico. That was my first fight as a vegan. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. And if it wasn't, it was whatever fight was after that, which was, I believe, the IFC tournament with Brandon Olson and Max Marin. It was sometime around then. It was like 2005. So
Yeah. Okay.
so if it wasn't with Akbar, it was '05. I'm almost certain.
Okay. So Von Flue was 05 as well. That was your one fight
That was
before.
'05?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Got my years mixed up. I didn't realize I fought him in
Oh
oh
four.
05.
It was
Von
oh
Flu
four.
is April of '04.
Oh, April of oh
Okay,
four.
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was April of oh four. So like me thinking like, well, he had a draw right there. Maybe it was the diet and getting used to it and kind of understanding your body,
Wow.
but that is not the case.
Not the case. I'll just say this about that whole thing. The reason why I went ahead and went through with having this diet as a professional athlete was because I tried it and I didn't feel any different. It was I didn't feel miraculously better and I didn't feel any worse. I felt the same. And so that was my green light to go ahead and do it because I felt like it was the right thing to do. I just morally felt like this is what I should do. Not trying to
And
change.
it's an ethical thing. Is it an ethical thing for
Yeah,
animals?
it's
Okay,
100% it's an ethical
cool.
thing. It's just
I respect that.
it's a personal choice. I'm not trying to change the world. I'm not trying to I mean I'd like to, and we'd all like to change the world and make it what we want it to be as individuals, but for me it was never about it was certainly was never about converting other people or trying to convince other people of anything. I mean, in a passive way, maybe in a positive passive way, I inspired some people to try it or to do it, and that's awesome. But I was like, this is the problem with like groups and subcultures and things like this. Like anything that has an ideology attached to it, then can quickly become very toxic. And I think one of the reasons why people hated me because I was vegan was because of the stereotypical way that vegans sometimes act or people that are crusading for animal rights sometimes act. And I think that like if you look at anyone who's really heavy about the rights of whether it be animals,
Anything. Yeah.
they're talking anything like that. The reason why they're like that is because and why they're maybe abrasive and why they cause problems is because like vegans, for example, they a lot of them saturate themselves with the harsh realities of how animals are treated globally, and they're very well aware of all this nasty stuff. And so they subject themselves to this information. And then they look at the world around them and they're like, why aren't you? Why are you doing that? How can you do that? How can you support this? And what they don't understand is that like not everybody else is like simmering in all this
Yeah.
fucked up
Knowledge, even
information and
knowledge,
everything.
knowledge. Yeah.
It just creates a divide. It's just like politics or anything else. And so I didn't want to be involved in that end of it. I just knew it was the right thing for me to do. And I was told by every single trainer that I had anyone that was like even remotely in the realm of being a trainer, no, you can't do that. Like, yeah, maybe if you're like some sort of like a triathlete or something, those people can get away with it, but you can't get away with that. You're gonna lose muscle, you're gonna be weak and all this stuff. And you can ask anyone that I ever trained with, like I was one of the strongest guys pound for pound in the weight class. There were people stronger than me. Gray Maynard was stronger than me. He's a beast, but like I was up there. I was never at a lack of
Outclassed. Yeah.
strength or
Yeah.
anything.
Outclassed.
And
Okay.
if I was, I would have put the diet on the side and not done it until after I retired. That was my original plan was, oh,
Wow.
after I retire, I'll do this. And then I just tried it and it was cool. And so I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. Why should I um pay money, like every time you buy something, you're voting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of people who don't
Sure.
want to buy certain clothes because there's like child slave labor and all that stuff. And that's their prerogative, you know what I mean? Like if there was a catchword like there is vegan for those people, then they would probably be shoved into a category by everybody else and either loved or hated or
That's
whatever.
true. All right. So you are very reclusive. There's no question about that. In 2012, you started a podcast. Like you were at like one of the beginning stages.
Yeah.
You had good guests too. You had Luke Rockhold, Gray Maynard, Dan Hardy, and the dynamic on that podcast was elite fighters or people that run in those elite circles, just kind of, talking shop. One, why did you stop in the interviews that you did do? Why did you turn them private?
Yeah, so I think the biggest issue with me throughout my entire career is I have a very low tolerance for like the type of criticism that you receive online if you're anyone. If you're like some random influencer or somebody with just a little bit of popularity, you're gonna get shit on. And like I chose not to subject myself to that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the response to those podcasts was the majority was very positive and people liked it.
I liked it.
But I have to say, like, that coincided with one of the most difficult times of my life. And I was thinking, this is a good idea. I should do this podcast thing. But at the same time, you're really putting yourself out there. Now, a lot of people are just like, well, that's the way the internet is. You want haters. Haters are great. I love all the haters. I don't mind all the shit talk. You should see all the things that people say about me and all the stuff that's in the comments. And I'm not like that. I'm the type of person that's like, if you're gonna say something, the internet and the dynamic of the internet and comment doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. I'm like an in-person type of person, like I just don't I wouldn't call up somebody that I thought I disliked over the phone and say something to him. Like I'd either say, I mean, as corny and as cliche as it sounds, I would say it to somebody's face, like the whole you wouldn't say that to my face. Honestly, like that's what it comes down to. There was a lot of criticism of it, probably not as much as there was positive feedback, but it was just like I was in a position where I was pretty broke, being a professional athlete and everything. Like I I I wasn't making that much money. I mean, after trainers' fees and management and everything else, I mean, when you're like a mid-level UFC guy or whatever you want to call it, like I wasn't in a position where I could just like rent a studio or turn a room in my apartment or whatever into a studio and just make this thing happen. I would have needed sponsors. It was just starting to take up too much time, and like at the same time, people were complaining about it, and I was just like, fuck it. I was going through a tough time. But if I look back at my life, I feels like in one way or another, I'm always going through some sort of a tough time. So it is what it is. But yeah, I don't
It
know.
was fantastic. It was fantastic.
It was a good idea, and some of it is still to me like I dropped the ball. It was like the right time to do it. Now everybody and their mother has a podcast, and like I get asked to do podcasts all the time that aren't from like they're just like Joe's podcast, and he's got like 3 subscribers, and he's been doing it for
Huh.
2 weeks, and he's like, hey, you're a washed up has been. Why don't you come on to my show? And I'm just like, no, no, thanks. Of course, they don't say that, but that's the way I take
Oh,
it, and
okay.
I take it that way.
Wait, hold on, hold on. All right, just so you know, like we run analytics here.
Yeah.
Your podcast was actually like Health Gracie because it was the first one he did in like since 1992. But in terms of like, you're definitely in the top three in terms of numbers that we did this year.
Hmm.
Like
That-
you for sure moved the needle. For
That's
sure moved
cool.
the needle.
That's cool. Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, I hope people like it. I think the one of the biggest issues with my career was I always felt I was misunderstood as a person, as a fighter, and it really bothered me that that was the case, and I think that made me even shittier, like as far as my personality, like I had a
Huh.
chip on my shoulder about it. And because I had a chip on my shoulder, then more and more people were just like, "Oh, fuck this guy." And so, and again, I might be wrong. I mean, every time I say this to friends or other people, they're just like, "Man, so many people liked you, so many people were fans of you. I don't know what you're talking about." But what I saw was the hate, and like I just, it's like,
Do
man,
you
like
magnify it? Do you magnify it? Do you think?
probably, you know what I mean? Like you see 20 people like say something nice to you, and then one person says some bullshit to you, and it's just like, fuck this, you know what I mean? Like it's not like, oh, I want to run away because I'm scared
Yeah.
of it or whatever. It's just like why doesn't it do these people have any type of like courage at all? Like are you really that upset with me? I can't imagine being a fan of a sport and like watching and being like, oh, I fucking hate LeBron James, man. If I ever see him, I'm gonna give him a piece of my
Piece of my
mind,
mind.
and I'm gonna comment on his Instagram, and when he posts a picture of him and driving his kids to school, I'm gonna tell him off, and I'm gonna tell him his kids are ugly. Like I don't know, dude. Like the whole thing, it just
It's bad energy.
yeah, and some people are just like, hey, this is cool. These are the rules of engagement with the internet, and I'm okay with it. And you play in this sandbox, and I'm just like, this sandbox too dirty, man. I don't want to do it. So
I respect that.
yeah.
The anonymity does bring out the worst in people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being a kid, like being like 12 years old and listening to Jerky Boys, and I would be
Yeah.
laughing my ass off
They were
because I
the
was like,
best.
these guys are great, and it was behind anonymity, and I was just like, man, I want to do that and everything. And then after a while, you grow out of that, like you become, you know what I mean? You become a man,
Yeah.
hopefully, and I mean, these people, they want an interaction. And that's another thing. I don't want to go too far into this,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
the reason why I don't really like a lot of the journalists that were around, like, don't get me wrong, some of them are really cool. Some of them help me, but a lot of these guys, like, they're like fans who then relish in creating a beef or something with a fighter. I mean, like when you look at Ariel Hawani, he was so happy that Habib was mad at him, and he was just like, "This is great. Did you hear what he said about me? He's talking about me.
Oh,
Like I'm
it's
Yeah.
important. I'm
painful.
important
It's
enough.
painful. It's painful.
Yeah, I'm important
Yeah.
enough to that a fighter has beef with me. Before I was just a nobody, and now because I'm in a position where I have a podcast or I write about it or I do interviews or whatever, I'm in a position where I can beef publicly with these people, and it raises me in my mind to the level of these people, and I think that's slimy, and I'm just like, man, like I don't know,
Yeah,
I'm a private
Mac,
person,
Mac, you're right. You're right. You
Yeah.
know, you're
Yeah.
right. It is what it is. One
Yeah.
of the interesting things in our last interview that you had said is you were told to sign a long-term contract with King of the Cage.
Yeah.
And you described that as one of the worst decisions that you've ever made.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that way at the time. Looking back on it, maybe it wasn't the worst thing in the world because, here's the thing. The UFC was tinkering with getting rid of the lightweight division. And after the Josh Thompson versus Eve Edwards fight,
Oh,
which was a great fight,
Hall of
and,
Fame
and
worthy.
and helped promote this weight class as being an awesome weight class, they decided to get rid of it. And I had talked to Joe Silva, and he was like, "But we're not gonna like get rid of it completely. We're just putting it on the back burner for now. So we will bring it back. We just aren't sure when." And like the King of the Cage thing, I mean, I was the world champion, and I was making 1,250 to show 12 another
Wow.
1,250 to win, and getting flown to all these different places to fight, and fighting most of the time tough guys. I think maybe I got like one guy who wasn't.
Wait. You're really leaving a lot off the table. They would, okay, keyword is they would fly you to
Yeah,
somebody else's hometown where
yeah,
that fighter sold a boatload of tickets.
yeah,
It was like you're at the time. I'm looking at your career. Was it because, dude, I was just dialed into everything MMA at this point, and it's like you signed a long term contract. In other words, like you committed to them, and their commitment to you was here. February 20, wait. Where is it? At February 26th. No, it's May 18, 2006, King of the Cage, Michigan, St. Patrick's Day weekend. They give you Jason Ireland, who's 14-5-1, is a
Yeah.
monster ticket seller, sold the entire place out. And it's like you commit to King of the Cage with this long-term contract, and in response, we're about to go through your championship run at King of the Cage. It's like they just try to feed you to a wolf to get hometown everywhere you
Yeah.
want.
What ended up happening was Terry saw me fight a guy in a like a prelim of one of his cards, and then right after that I won the Gladiator Challenge title against Nick Ertl, which fun fact was the same day that Uriah Faber had his first loss against a then unknown Tyson Griffin. But
Wow.
the after that Terry was because Gladiator Challenge and King of the Cage were like sister companies.
Right.
And Terry was like, I have a vision that you could be like my main guy. I think you can beat Takumi Nakayama or at least have a really good fight with him. And if you do that, like I can see you holding this title for a while. And I'm like, okay, cool. But then he realized that I wasn't a ticket seller. And let's just face it here, like most of the people, most of these shows, it's still the formula for the shows. You got to sell tickets. That's why the local guy who sells 300 tickets is the main event. And the guy who's actually a real fighter who has UFC aspirations, who is training instead of spending his time hustling his friends and family for overpriced tickets, he is put on a side burner and can kind of like treated like less than. And so when Terry realized that, he was like, "Well, I'm trying to expand my brand. I'm going to Canada. I'm putting stuff on TV in Canada. I'm gonna send this guy out to Canada. I'm gonna send him out to other shows, and then he'll be like, But then what ended up happening was there was just so much contention between he and I because he knew I wanted out, and he knew it wasn't I UFC pulled in the lightweights right in the middle of that, and I was just like, I want to be a part of this. This is desperately what I want to do, and when you're young and you're getting after it, like every day that you're locked into something that you don't want to do, it feels like an
Eats away at
eternity.
your soul. Eats away
Yeah,
at your soul.
looking back on it, it wasn't all that long. It wasn't all that long of a time, but for me, it was tough. And then fighting guys like Buddy Clinton and John Malo, who are just like really hard to beat, but like don't really beating them doesn't really do anything because they're not really known yet at the time. But it was kind of tough. But yeah, at the time I was looking at it as a very bad idea that Monty had convinced me to do. And I was hoping that he, had some type of foresight about this stuff. But he was just kind of like no, sorry, like at the time it was a good idea. And I'm like, dude, that was 9 months ago, you know? But yeah, the way it goes. So.
Did King of the Cage get you into Pride? Did they still have that relationship at the time?
So Terry would like to say that he got me into Pride, but what ended up happening was this. I was about to my contract with King of the Cage was coming up, and Terry had been telling me the whole time that I was in King of the Cage, I'm gonna get you a fight in Japan. I'm in with Pride. I'm gonna get you a fight in Japan. Just wait. And I was like, that's awesome. And after a couple of years of hearing this, I stopped really believing it. Once my contract finally ran up, I was slated to fight Clay French, and Monty had gotten me a fight in Pride because, like independently of King of the Cage, because he that was the one thing Terry was okay with. He was like, you can do Pride, and that's okay, but anything else, any other show, you can't do. But it just has to be okayed through me. Supposedly, according to Monty, he got Terry's like yes about it because Terry knew that I wanted out, and Terry's probably like, yeah, I'm done with him anyway. So I was slated to fight in Pride 33 before I had actually fought Clay French. It was like both fights, I had both fights lined up. It was just I didn't know who I was going to fight in Pride yet. Because they told me it's either going to be Gomi or Sakurai, one of those
Hey,
two.
hey, Yeah, that's way down the line. So, so Jason Ireland, when you walk in there, was it? I mean, that's kind of a daunting task because he's such a popular fighter, from that area. How difficult was that fight? When did you realize that the entire neighborhood was there to watch you lose?
Yeah, I mean that type of thing bothered me maybe a tiny bit, but not too much. I was always pretty well focused, and like I had never minded the crowd booing me or kind of like going crazy for someone else, because that's the cool thing about fighting is it's like if you separate everything, you separate the all your other senses, the things that you hear, the things that you're thinking, maybe that aren't about the present moment. If you can separate yourself from that, all it is you and the other person in there. It doesn't matter where it is. It could be on Mars. It doesn't matter. It could be with no audience at all. It could be with 10 million people watching. It doesn't matter. It's just you and them. And so that stuff does like touch you a little bit while you're in there, and then if you're a good fighter or a good sports player or whatever you want to call it, you're able to focus and get out of that. So I had been kind of in that position before in some other fights in the past where they just announce you and like, oh, this guy's from somewhere else and he's from California. We don't like California guys.
No,
So,
no.
you know what I mean? And they would boo or whatever, and I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Like you guys can't help this dude because I got this. So
You were at Millenia at that time.
yeah. Hmm.
How would you describe your experience there?
I would say it was good. So like getting away from the situation at Raw, which had gotten pretty toxic in my opinion, at some point, and there was, I think Rico had just kind of had it with all of the jokers and the hangers on, and like I kind of got pushed to the wayside with a lot of other people, and the focus was mainly on Trig, and then maybe a little bit with Vladimir too. And I think Rico was over it, and he kind of treated people like in a way that he didn't want to have nothing to do with them. So when I left that, Millenia was cool because here was a gym where there were guys that were like all my age, and there wasn't like a head coach bossing everybody. Romy Aram kind of had like a coach-ish thing going on, and he would help. But we were all just kind of fighters training. And at the time it was relieving. I liked that aspect. I met John Alessio there, and he and I just clicked immediately. We became real good friends. He and I we cornered each other in a whole lot of different fights over the years after we met. We trained together all the time. He was like a brother to me, for a long time. And there was some other good guys there. And Javier Vasquez, he was there.
Eh,
Was dealing with a lot of injuries. And he was focusing mainly on jiu-jitsu, but he was there. Gabe Ruediger was there. In
Manny
the
Tapia.
oh yeah, Manny's a great
Yeah.
guy. Manny Tapia, yeah, good guy. Charlie Valencia was in there a little bit.
Yeah, Betsis Mansouri.
But Batiste, yeah.
Yeah, Batiste. Yeah.
Batiste was like he had already at that point, he would roll a little bit, but he was already kind of like the grandpa. He had gained a bunch of weight, and he just wasn't an athlete anymore, and he wasn't really training with us in that way, but he was always around. He was always around, he was always being supportive. Batiste I like Batiste. He's a good guy, and Romy is a great guy too. And Romy would train with us, and he was tough. And there's a bunch of other guys that were coming up to Rick McCorkle and Dave Avila, and it was a good little room. It was a very small gym at that point. They had moved to a real small gym. Yeah,
Was this in Rancho Cucamonga or
it
Pomona?
was. Yeah, like Ontario. It was like off of Vineyard. Like if
Was
you exited off of 10, you'd go Vineyard to get there. So it was kind of like, yeah, it was more Ontario. The first one was in Pomona,
yeah.
and then they were like on the border of Rancho and Ontario, and then eventually years later they moved to a much bigger spot in Rancho.
Was Tim Crater with them still, or had he gone back to Louisiana by then?
Oh, he wasn't there. No,
Okay.
I didn't know that Tim was ever actually a
Oh
part
yeah.
of it. Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Were you one of Gabe Ruediger's roommates?
Yeah, me, Gabe Ruediger, and Javi, all three of us were roommates. Yeah, yeah.
Ruediger's lived with everybody.
Yeah.
Mm.
He
Yeah, it
lived
was a
with,
bit of a disaster. Me and Gabe were good friends to start
yeah.
with, and then living with him, I
So it was
think I,
difficult. Yeah, it was difficult, right?
I think he's grown up. I think he's matured a lot. Like my conversations with him in the past 10 years have been yeah, he's a guy that's yeah, he's a solid dude now, but when he was young, man, he's a bit of a drama queen and stuff, and I wasn't feeling it, you know.
He, yeah, he lived with Cameron Earl for a while.
Yeah, he did before he moved down to Southern California. He did, yeah, yeah.
I think Cameron's actually out of jail now. I did a like
Really?
a an inmate search.
Wow.
I
Wow.
couldn't find him. Yeah, I couldn't find him.
Wow. Interesting. Hmm. Yeah, that dude was tough. That dude was like a strong jujitsu player, man. It's a
You
shame. Yeah.
is what it is. You had a lot of rumors of fights, like Fabiano Holanda. Um, I heard a rumor that you were supposed to fight Buddy Clinton before you did. It was supposed to Tyson Griffin, Mario Staple. Like there was always rumors about like who you
Yeah.
were fighting next.
The Mario Stapel thing was definitely on the table, and I was actually, believe it or not, because I couldn't. There was a weird time where during like 2003, 4, 5, I couldn't get any lightweight fights. I couldn't find any lightweight fights, and so I was like going up to welterweight, and WEC was trying to get me a fight with Shonie Carter at welterweight, and I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm in." Like he's way bigger than me naturally, but he's not a like a powerful presence in that way. He's not gonna like take me down and hold me down. I was totally in on that, and then I hurt my back really bad training with Romy, and then that fight got passed up, but it was probably for the better because you know, fighting up a weight class like that just probably, you know, wasn't the right idea.
Romy also had issues with King of the Cage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, who doesn't like it?
A
Like,
lot of guys.
Uh,
yeah. Probably like a whole lot. You know, it's Terry's just like I don't know. I mean, looking back on it, I got no ill will. If I see him, it's cool. It is what it is. It's just it's fight promoters in general. You know, there's just something about the whole thing. I don't know. You can't really get away from that with them.
it's a certain type, like successful fight promoters, like the
Yeah,
successful. It's different,
he's a survivor, man. He's still at it, you
dude.
know.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I mean, King of the Cage became like a garage sale at one point,
Yes.
but
Mm,
I mean, they've what just put on their 2000th show, right, Joey?
Yeah.
mm.
And their numbers are like nobody else.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, if King of the Cage really played their cards right, Bellator would have never existed.
No.
PFL never would have existed. You know, all those GFL never would have pretended to exist. Um, like it would have been just King of the Cage. I mean, UFC and King of the Cage.
Yeah.
You know, Pride. You know, if Pride hadn't gone down. Yeah, it's he always looked at saving a dollar. He always did.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, once he realized I wasn't a ticket seller, then he was like, "Oh man, what do I do with this
Well,
guy?"
it's kind of
And
his. That's kind of his problem to deal with, though.
you're right, you're right. But you know what? You know what was really interesting is he held me in this contract for so long. He knew I didn't want to be in it, and I think he was kind of resentful after it was over with. And he went out of his way to like not promote me. Like whenever I once I was already in the UFC and I'd won the Ultimate Fighter and I had started to get some notoriety and I became a household name for a little bit in the UFC, he would always put on these DVDs like this one like picture of like Daniel Cormier or Ronda Rousey or like you know like picking Joe Stevenson who I knocked out like any of
Rampage.
these guys he
Yeah.
would like put them on the cover and never me, and I was just kind of like like he didn't want the publicity that he had gained by me winning that show and me being a former King of the Cage guy. He never really,
So weird.
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. You'd have to ask him, and then who knows? Who knows? You know, like someone like that. He's again. I'm cool with Terry. It's all right. It's just you know, there's a politician in him, and you can't talk to a politician and really ask him and get a straight answer. So yeah.
No, no, he really can't. You also rolled with Uriah Faber right around this time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like Uriah came to the area and I think I picked him up from the airport in Ontario and oh no, he was hanging out with Thomas Denny up the hill in Victorville. Thomas Denny had just opened up a new gym, and Uriah was down there to teach a seminar or something. And then I picked him up from there, brought him to Millenia, and we trained a little bit. And I can't remember if that was before or after we fought on the same card when I won the King of the Cage title against Takumi, because he had fought a kid named Sean Bias in that same card. And anyway, yeah, we rolled briefly. I can't remember if I trained with him after that ever or not. I think that might have been the only time me and Uriah trained.
How did that session go?
From what I remember, it was fun. He scrambled a lot. He was hard to hold down. He wrestled well. I don't think I submitted him, but like I may have reversed him a few times or something like that. And I don't remember much. Nothing major happened. We weren't striking. And it was like, oh, this guy's a weight class down from me, but he's pretty scrappy and he's good and that's all I felt from it. Nothing major happened. I remember like him going with Gabe and it I mean Gabe didn't have any wrestling at the time. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like if you push Gabe, he's gonna fall over. And Uriah like I think hit him with some takedowns and stuff, but I don't remember anybody like getting worked in any direction. I don't remember him like being a real dominant or me being real dominant necessarily. It wasn't memorable in that way.
He was widely looked at as like the uncrowned world champion at
Hmm.
135. Or
Yeah,
about more 145 is where he was fighting at this time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it was good. I mean, like he always had that scrappy wrestler, like willing to scramble, hard to hold down. He will get takedowns, he'll strike. He was part of a new breed of guys that were using their wrestling pedigree and their drive in wrestling, like that wrestling pace and setting that sort of pace in MMA. It was kind of cool. It's cool to see.
Joey, your former friend, Eben Canishero. Did you
Eben,
ever,
Eben,
Eben Canishero, did you ever share mat with him?
Evan Kenisher, I don't think so. Man, I trained with so many different people. I don't think I trained with him.
he was
I
at a new breed. They did train with Millenia on and off, but you might have just missed him.
was it, yeah, it might not have been in my era. When my era at Millenia was '04 to '06. There was like
Yeah.
2 years that I was there and I think I missed a lot of people, like
Yeah.
people that were there first and people that came later.
Yeah, he's one of those tragic stories. He's one of
Oh
those
yeah.
guys. Earl, Cameron Earl type.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
mean, I trained with some other tragic story people, like Justin Levens. He had
Oh,
Yeah.
he had come to Raw a few times. Dude, I never got a bad vibe from that kid. He was always good, and who knows, man? Who knows what people are going through in these moments and why they do the things they do. But you know, yeah, yeah. Levens was I got nothing bad to say about him from when I knew him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like the people that you cross paths with and kind of where you saw them and where they go. It's like sometimes it's mind blowing. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Yep. It really is, man. Life is crazy, and that's why, like, at my age right now, and I'm not trying to say it, because you guys, how old are you guys?
50.
50?
47.
47. Yeah. So you guys are older than me. I'm 45, but like, so I'm
Yeah.
not trying to throw some wisdom at you guys because you guys already know, but like at my age now, I'm like really starting to just be grateful that I made it as far as I did and that I haven't fucked anything up and I haven't done anything like that. I haven't hurt anyone and I'm just grateful to be here still.
I'd say you broke a cycle.
Yeah,
I mean, life is about cycles, and
yeah,
oftentimes you repeat what your
yeah,
parents do,
yeah,
have done, or in your past. And I think you hit the brakes pretty hard
yeah. I
on that.
definitely saw what I didn't want to be, and like being a parent, that was, that was huge, and just like realizing that I can be a better parent than what I had, and I can do better, and some things I'm just never gonna do. And it's never gonna, like, no matter how I lose my temper, I'm never gonna go that route like what I experienced when I was a kid. It just won't. Like it's not like, oh, I have to fight this temptation. No, it's not there. So yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah,
That is pretty cool. Like it's you're like we started talking about like your lifestyle with your diet and stuff like that, but all that is just a reflection of your ability to dedicate yourself to. It's like you're very disciplined. Like you got world championship discipline.
yeah. I want to do the right thing, and sometimes the right thing is a really, like, sketchy. It's hard to put your finger on exactly what it is. Like, who knows what the right thing to do is sometimes. But like my whole life, I've been whatever my personal moral compass is, my personal ethics, what I feel is right or wrong. I try to keep a good eye on that, and do the right thing when I can. And I don't always do the right thing. I'm as flawed as anybody. I'm far from perfect, and I have regrets and things like that. But it's the one thing is, like, I'm always striving to whatever the right thing to do in the moment is. I'm trying to do it. I don't. Hopefully it shuts down the amount of regrets that I end up having when I'm even older. But yeah, what else can you do? Like, do the right thing, be good.
Yeah, you
And
talked about John Alessio. Another person that you really
Yeah,
became close with was Shawn Tompkins. Right
yeah,
around your fight with Orlando Sanchez, April 22nd, 2006. You got a 6-0 kid out of Puerto Rico. Lots of questions about him, a lot of hype, and you kind of made easy work of him.
well, the thing about him was, we couldn't find anything, like, about him. Like Terry kept saying, Mac, don't worry about this. This is an easy fight for you. And I'm like, well, like, A, why are you giving me an easy fight? And B, like, how is it easy if I don't have any footage on this guy and there's nothing anywhere on this guy? And he's like, trust me, he's just a kickboxer. He doesn't know anything. He's like, and then what happened was, here's what I was told by Terry, and then a referee backed this up, because he knew the guy. He said that Orlando Sanchez or Orlando Ruiz. I'm not sure which one, because he had gone under both. I think
Yeah,
one.
Orlando Sanchez Ruiz. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was wanted to fight in King of the Cage, and in Puerto Rico at the time there was nothing. There was no opportunities for fighters, and he was like a Muay Thai guy or a kickboxing guy who did some MMA, but there wasn't anything for him. And he wanted to do King of the Cage, and he was willing to fly himself up there. So that's what it was Terry saving money on a flight. And that's why he was my opponent. And so my goal with him was, oh, you're a striker, you're gonna be supposedly on paper.
Let me interject here.
Yeah.
It's a world title fight for the most prestigious belt in your organization at the weight class. But we got this guy that's willing to fly himself up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's King of the
That's
Cage.
your opponent.
that
Yeah.
tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It does. It does. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. Like just
Yeah.
think about that. Well,
Yeah.
Mac, I can save on a plane ticket.
Dude, that's what it comes down to, man. That's my contract was for 1250 and 1250 instead of 1500 and 1500, or two and two. It was like, didn't matter how many fights I won or whatever, like, it never changed. At least with the UFC, they were like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll pay you like a little more after you win in your contract. If we keep you under contract and you're coming off a win, your pay goes up a little bit, like just even with by a couple grand, but they had it structured in somewhat of a charitable way. But no, like it was so difficult trying to like make a living doing that, like realistically, if I fight 3 times and I win, that means that I've made, yeah, I mean like 2,500 times three. And so now you're talking 500 for an MRI, 100 each time for blood work, so 300 for blood work. That's $800 already gone for the year. Like physicals and eye exams are like 50 for the physical, 100 for the eye exam, 150 for the eye exam. Every
Gas to go to the gym. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
It's below the poverty level. It's below minimum wage.
Of course, yeah, yeah. And so of course I wasn't doing this full time. I was working security and everything. I mean, I worked security pretty much the whole time I was in California on
Again,
the
a bar
side or
or
whatever.
what? A concerts bar? What were you doing?
I was a bouncer. I was a door person and then a bouncer like for a long time. That's how I had actually met the mother of my child. Is she was working the bar and I was a bouncer at the Hollywood Athletic Club. The Hollywood Athletic Club was like me, John Marsh was there. Me and John Marsh were there, and then there was a lot of other guys. Not a whole lot of notable people in MMA, but we all kind of trained together and ran in the same circles, and that
Would
was
Tank Abbott or like Eddie Ruiz or any of Tank's crew
that
show up?
Tank came around later when John Marsh got hired
Yeah.
to try to get Tank to a place where he could somehow technically compete with the new level of guys. And of course, as you saw, it didn't work out. Like, I mean, he tapped to a toe hold from an omoplata. So like Tank was just from a different era,
Yeah.
and like then putting him against Frank Mir, they were hoping that maybe he could pull an Ian Freeman and like, but there's a difference between Freeman and Tank. And like Freeman had a little bit more MMA style. Tank was just Tank. Tank was
Yeah.
awesome in his time. It was
Tank with
really cool to watch him in his time.
It's a cartoon character. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
drinking started catching up with him though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think he ever trained hard. I mean, like I don't think he, like
He
I
never got
never
hurt in
got
training,
the
for
feeling that
sure.
he trained hard. I think John Marsh tried to put him through some hard training, and I don't think it was the right thing for him because all it did was discourage him because then he's in a gym going round after round with actual fighters from a newer era of technical expertise, and he just didn't feel good about it. And then so what is a guy like that gonna rely on? Just can I land the right hand or not? So yeah.
Kimo never showed up or anything like that, then, huh?
No, I don't think I ever the only time I just I think I saw Kimo at an event one time. Like I was at a UFC event and but way before I got into the UFC and he was there and he and just like walking around or whatever. Other than that, I've had no contact with him. I didn't even know that he trained um in the mainland at all. Like I
Well, he and Joe Son, I mean, they did Bible
Yeah,
study and training.
sold
no,
meth.
Yeah.
no,
I mean,
I don't know, man. Joe
preaching the
Son,
Lord.
yeah, he was terrible. That guy was terrible. Yeah. Yeah. I
um,
mean, it was fun though. If you guys ever want to interview a dude, I'll get you in contact with him. He would actually be really good to talk to. Maybe he would be the type of guy that you guys would pull on during an interview with someone else, but he's got a lot of stories. Do you remember a guy named it was not his real name, but he was doing a sketch comedy thing on MMA as like a redneck named Reggie Warren?
Oh yeah, I was at
Yeah.
an
dude,
event
I
he got
love it.
kicked out
Reggie.
of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Reggie Warren,
He was like from Iowa, right?
he was in Iowa for a while, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was friends with Spencer Fisher. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a friend of mine, and he was at UFC 3, like in the crowd as a kid, and he had some experiences like he's got some crazy stories from being in that event, as a kid and just like watching everything and like the shit that went down the hotel room and everything. Yeah, like he would be a good talk. He has a lot of stories from the
he
Iowa guys and Tim Sylvia and all them too.
he came 20 years too early. Like if he came
Yes.
out with that little gimmick
Yeah.
today,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
you
he
know,
in character, he got himself thrown out of a Strike Force event in Los Angeles. That's the only
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen him in
Yeah. Yeah.
person. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd rather listen to him than the schmo, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, dude, bro, don't.
Look at
Yeah.
that. Look at that. Look
Wow.
at that.
No, dude. Yeah, man, like you're pulling the East Coast scowl out of me. So there was a guy that I was on the Ultimate Fighter with, a friend of mine, Jared Rollins, J Rock, and he and I would talk about that. Like when somebody would do something, I'd just be like, and that's
Yeah.
he calls that the East Coast scowl. Yeah, so that when you mentioned that guy, that's what you get out of me.
Yeah. So Shawn Tompkins,
Yeah, yeah.
talk about like his entry into your life. You guys had a real good connection.
Yeah, so here's how it happened. I was trying to get ready for me and John Alessio were always looking for new places to train and different training camps so there's good people. And we had hooked up for a while with Billy Rush and we were training with at Jeremy Horn's place a lot in Utah. So I would train with Joe Dirksen and Jeremy Horn and
Joe Riggs.
Joe Riggs was there. And yeah, like me and Alessio and Riggs were hanging out a lot and training together. And what ended up happening, I think, was I got word from somebody. I can't remember who it is right now. It might have been Mark Beecher. I don't know if you heard of him. He was
Yeah,
a
of course.
Muay Thai
Yeah.
he had just moved to Vegas and Zions, you remember Zions, the
Oh
barcode
yeah.
energy drink
From
company or
Colorado.
whatever.
The
They,
guys from Colorado. Yeah.
yeah, the Zions company had its own gym. It was just like a small gym in a strip mall. And there were some good
Well, the
people there.
owner is a former fighter.
What's that?
The owner is a former fighter.
Who is?
The owner of Zions.
Who?
Dude, he had a crappy record. I'd have to
Okay.
go through my notes, but he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I, it was shocking that somebody with a record in MMA like that had this like what turned out to be a shell game later on that got right sided because
Yeah.
the authorities were about to get involved. I mean, there's like a big federal file online, about a 45-page file that's fascinating reading about science. But go ahead.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Zion's gym was just a small gym in a strip mall in Vegas at the time, but Mark Beecher was training with Forrest Griffin. And so he said, "Yeah, just come up." And so I went up there, and when I was up there, that's when I met Gray Maynard, and he and I became really good friends. And I met Martin Campman and Jay Haran and like Rick Davis and some other guys up there.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was eh, I was training up there and I brought Alessio up there and then he like Gray said, "Hey, um Shawn Tompkins is flying guys up to help his guys train." So it was Mark Hominick, Chris
Sam
Hordet,
Stout.
Sam Stout and Chris Hordeski. And he's like, "Do you want to come up there for a week to London, Ontario?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And so Tompkins like flew me and Gray and another guy named Joe. Oh man, what's his name? His name was Joey. I'm pretty sure it's Joey Varner. Um,
Jamie Varner?
no, not Jamie Varner, not Jamie Varner, the fighter in WEC. Yeah, his name was Joey Varner. Is his name? He was a kickboxer out of Vegas and did some boxing too. Anyway, the three of us went up there and we stayed with Shawn and trained with his guys, and that's how I met Shawn. And we had a good relationship and everything. And then a few years later, it just coincidentally happened that he got pulled on as like the head MMA coach at Extreme Couture, and I had moved to Vegas to train at Extreme Couture. So he and I naturally kind of started working together a little bit. Yeah, yeah.
How did you get along with the Canadian guys that you mentioned?
Those guys were great guys. I
Yeah.
got nothing but good things to say about them. They were, at the time in 2006, they were all like a little better than me striking, but I was way ahead of them with the grappling realm at the time. It was like they weren't even close to my level on the grappling, and then like Mark Hominick and Chris Wardesky would kick my ass standing. And then what was funny is like years later, my striking got so good that I was having no problem with them. But great guys, great
Your
people.
check left counter check left hook. Money,
Yeah,
bro. That
yeah,
thing
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
money.
yeah. But yeah, man, those guys were good guys. They didn't have any. There was no weird competitiveness about them. I mean, they were competitors, and they went after it, but they were good, solid dudes. I still consider those guys friends. Those three guys.
What Tompkins did within a driving distance of that gym and the athletes that he produced, like from day one all the way to fighting for a world title, very, very few people in this world can say that they've done that.
Yeah, man. Shawn was a very committed guy. He was very committed to his people and his students, and yeah, he was a solid dude, man.
Like to
He
party,
wasn't.
big partier.
Yeah, yeah, he was. Like I never got like, he and we became close, and his wife at the time, Emily, she was good friends with my girlfriend, my daughter's mom, and so we were all kind of like, like kind of close in that way. But yeah, Shawn was like I stopped working with him after the Clay Guida fight, but it was never like beef or anything like that. I just realized that he wasn't the right fit for me as a coach, as a trainer. I needed someone who could like offer a little more technical expertise and someone who was willing to take a back seat. I will say this, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of trainers out there and a lot of people out there and this is not, Shawn was not a fake trainer. He was a real coach.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there's
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of fakers out there, and then there's a lot of people who their whole thing is they just want to be seen out there. And so
Dude.
they're looking at them when they're walking behind the fighter. They're looking up at the teleprompter. Am I in the frame? Am I in the frame? Oh shit, there I am. Yeah, okay, cool. Look at me. I'm in the UFC. I can't wait to screenshot this and put it on my Instagram. Those type of guys are the type of guys that will also go in there and then they want to make it about them when they're in your corner. They want to be the guy who pulls out some sort of like a dramatic speech or something like that, or you hear them just swearing and saying all kinds of crap like, you listen to me, you gotta blah blah blah, this motherfucker and all this stuff. And these guys they don't know who they're talking to. They don't know how to reach a fighter in that moment, you know?
They're trying to get their Teddy Atlas moment.
All right.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, like there's one Teddy Atlas, and like he didn't pull that card all the time. He pulled it in the moments when he had to, and it's a gamble. Like when he
Right.
did it to Michael Moore, it was a disaster. Moore didn't respond to that crap. You know what I mean? It wasn't the right thing to do. You need to know your fighter, and you need to know how to communicate to them and what to say in the right moments. And there's sometimes when it's technical and you have to say something technical. That's what the fighter needs. Sometimes they need motivation. Sometimes they just need a separation for 60 seconds from this stressful situation that they find themselves in. They need distracted. They need something else. You need to know your fighter. And a lot of these guys, it's just like one style of coaching fits all. They're like bad chiropractors. Chiropractors, you go to them, you're like, "Oh, I got a shoulder problem." They're like, I'm just going to crack you. And then this other guy's like, I got a lower back problem. He's like, I'm just going to crack you. And they got the same crack routine for everybody. There's trainers that are like that. And it's like, fighters are individuals. If I was John Jones's coach, I would not train him the same way I would train Paddy Pimblett, and I would not train him the same way I would train Usman. You know, like everybody needs something different. And anyway, Shawn wasn't the right fit for me
At
with
that time.
training.
Yeah, at that time.
No, like after the Guida thing, it was kind of I was a little too sensitive to at the time to be talked to that way, and I kind of felt that he was trying to pull it like a Teddy Atlas moment and like kind of make it about him, and so and again, um, I love the guy. I mean, I got nothing but good to say about him and his memory. I think he should be like treated like the good friend and coach that he was, but it just wasn't for me at the time. I had a hard time dealing with him pulling that card before the last round. And I think he kind of thought he was going to motivate me, but it wasn't what I needed. I needed confidence. I didn't need like someone thinking they were lighting a fire under my ass. And so that kind of created a rift between us. But we still saw each other all the time and trained, and he was still like running the practices and we were cool.
Well,
I just switched
he,
over to
oh,
Gil Martinez.
okay. So like would Shawn charge a fee for his services?
Here was what was interesting at the time. Um, there were a lot of guys. So like Shawn was like employed by Extreme Couture from what I understand. And I don't think he was making very much. I'm sure he wasn't, I'm sure they weren't giving him like an amazing salary to be like the, the guy who runs the MMA practices for the pros. But he was getting something. And I think that some fighters sort of just took advantage of that and they would fly him out to the fight and then they wouldn't pay him anything. Because I remember Randy having a meeting with us, Randy Couture, and he was like, make sure you kick Shawn down something. Like if he's going to your, if he's going to your fights and everything, and he's like doing pads with you and everything, make sure you compensate him because I don't think he would have said that unless guys weren't. So I just based on how much money I made from that fight with Guida and like what I thought I could afford to give him, I just kicked him down some and he never asked for a specific amount. He was just happy that I gave him a check and that's how it worked. We never had an agreement. We never had like a percentage agreement or anything like that. And then that was it. The Guida fight was the only fight that I really worked with him and I paid him, but yeah, that's how it went. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, some fighters I actually received a list of fighters that didn't pay him from somebody that knew him.
Mm. I wasn't on it. What was
No,
yeah,
no,
yeah, because
no.
yeah,
That's
I
I
paid
wouldn't
him.
have
Yeah.
asked. Like I
Yeah,
actually I
yeah, yeah.
actually genuinely like you. I wouldn't have I wouldn't have
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
would have
yeah.
steered
Yeah.
away from it.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
worries. No, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no. Joey, what do you think it's like entering the cage at 1 o'clock in the morning? Because
Huh.
on August 4th, 2006,
Yeah.
his fight with Buddy Clinton started at 1 a.m.
I thought it was
Jesus.
1:30. Yeah.
Was it one?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
after the pageantry. Okay, the
Yeah.
walks maybe started at 1.
Yeah, when
So
you're a young man, I mean, that's not that late. You do some of your best work at 1 in the morning. The bar's about to close.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
got to close a deal.
No, I it was ridiculous, but it was typical of King of the Cage, man. I mean, they started that event at 6 p.m. when the sun was still out. That's a boba, like always. And who knows why things went that way, but I warmed up 4 different times. And 4 different times, I mean, like the fourth time, then I had my fight. But the three warm-ups before that, they were like, okay, you're fighting in about 40 minutes. I'm like, all right, like let's start hitting mitts. Let's start training hard. Let's, get the heart rate up.
Yeah.
And then nothing. And I remember oh, what was it? It's so dumb the things that we remember, but I remember somebody was talking a little crap, like not major or anything, but uh they who was it? Bollinger, the doctor, Sean Bollinger's dad he was like, yeah, Mac looked really good in the warm up, but he was flat in the fight, and it's like, dude, I fought at 130. I warmed up 4 times. Like both me and my opponent looked flat, everybody left at that point.
Uh,
Like I went out there and for the main event, and the only people that were still there were the people that were my friends that had come all the way out there to see me fight. And they were like all like red-eyed and stuff. It was
Those are actually your real
ridiculous.
friends. Those are like, never
Yeah.
mind buying a ticket. They're there
Yeah.
at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Buddy Clinton, black belt under Hoist, part of
Mm,
team Travis Luter. He
yeah.
was 7-1 at the time. A lot of fanfare, a lot of hype behind him as well.
Yeah, he was good. He just he couldn't handle like all I did was like avoid his submissions, and then every time he tried a submission, I'd make him pay for it a little bit. And I just kind of I grinded him out. I let him know that he wasn't gonna submit me, and I came at him strong with the striking in a way that didn't make him feel confident to strike with me. And so it was all just clinching and ground stuff. And he did some good things on the ground. He reversed me once or twice. He had a takedown on me, but like I just broke him a little bit. You know what I mean? Like not completely broke him. Like he didn't quit, but like every time he tried a submission, I just shut him down. I always did well against jiu-jitsu guys. Um, guys that were like interested more in trying to go for the submission. I could shut down most of those guys. So that was
Yeah.
a good style matchup for me in that way.
Joey, they then fly him to Rockford, Illinois to fight a monster ticket seller in Clay French, where I know he's got ties with the promoter. He definitely wasn't working out with them at the time. I think it was Dan Lardy was the promoter. Um, but Clay French, 7-2 with a win over James Krause. Like he's high-end
Mm,
state champion wrestler. I think he wrestled at Eastern Illinois, part of that famed block of fighters that Mike Russo, Matt Hughes, the guys that wrestled out of Lewis Taylor, lots of MMA guys out of Eastern Illinois. He was part of that, like that push.
yeah. Yeah, that fight, like I knew it was kind of set up like Terry was gambling, hoping that I would lose because he knew it was going to be my last fight with King of the Cage. And so he gave me a guy that, formula wise, it looks like probably I'm not going to be able to finish this guy. Like he's a good wrestler. I had some problems with wrestlers. And so it was a fight that if it went to a decision, it could go his way. And look, I take nothing away from Clay French. I mean, he's good. He's very strong. He's a good wrestler and everything. But like, I had a whole lot of close decision losses in my career, and if I were to name the one that I think, I definitely deserved the nod, it would have been that one. If I could have, but it's no big deal. I mean, it is what it is. It's water under the bridge now, so.
You were training at Legends Gym at that time.
I was, yeah. Yep. Yep.
Were you kind of just gym jumping, or was there a reason for that?
Well, here's what happened. I was at Millenia for about 2 years, and then in 2006, my girlfriend at the time, was the ended up later being the mother of my daughter. We started getting more serious, and we had already gone through all the makeup breakup crap of the first couple years, and we were just like, yeah, let's move in together. And she always wanted an apartment up in the Hollywood Hills, and she was willing to pay like more than half, and like I think I can't remember. I was like paying like 30% of the rent or something like that. And because she was just like, let's move in. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I moved in there, and so it was just too far of a drive to keep training at Millenia. And I was really hoping that Legends was going to be a good gym, the way that it was promoted and the way that it was like being marketed. It seemed like, oh, it's Boss Rutan and Randy Couture, and they're going to be there. And that wasn't the case at all. But what was kind of cool about it? A lot of people came through there, and that's how I met Dan Hardy and became good friends with him. And there was a lot of clowns there too, but there were some good guys, and yeah, that's why I was there, because it was in Hollywood and I was living in Hollywood, so that's why I went there. It wasn't long before I realized that I needed to train somewhere better, but yeah, yeah.
With Max Sakurai, which is a Pride 33 in Las Vegas. Um, it was February 24, 2007. At the time, he's 7-2, but he's arguably top three in the world.
Yeah, I looked at Sakurai and Gomi as being top two in the world at the time.
Gilbert Melendez, Gomi,
Yeah,
Sakurai. It gets
I
at
had
the
gone up
time.
there and trained with Gil Melendez and Jake Shields and Alex Sergikov and Jeremy Williams before that fight a little bit. But yeah, yeah, I didn't know that I was fighting Sakurai for sure until 2 weeks before the fight, because they said it's either going to be Gomi or Sakurai, and that's how they play you. Like
Jesus.
they don't let you know. And he knew the whole time he was fighting me. And then yeah, it was tough. I mean, I just kind of got thrown to the wolves, but I didn't mind because I was young and I was willing to test myself against someone like that. So if you looked at me, I was probably like maybe top 20 lightweight in the world, and he was like a top three.
He's
Like,
top three for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Top
yeah.
three.
And the
Your
only,
performance was heroic. Like you had a heroic performance though. Like it was
yeah, I kind of realized at some point that it was just I was in over my head, and I was just like, well, I'm not going out like a bitch, so I just kept moving forward, trying to do stuff. I had no ring generalship at the time. I had no like understanding of like how to strategically shut down someone like that. I just kept walking forward, and he kept kicking the crap out of my legs. It was just it wasn't great, but that fight was interesting because of a few factors. One was Pride had 160-pound weight class instead of 155.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind
the
that.
weight's weird. Your weight's
Yeah.
weird. Like you're 61, he's 64.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is, yeah, I'll explain that. So
Yeah.
what happened was I get to Vegas on Monday before the Saturday that we fight, and for the first 3 days, every time I see Sakurai, he's like walking around everywhere wearing a giant triple fat goose parka. Like a one that goes down past the knees, like if you could imagine the fit of a trench coat, but it's like a giant.
Like a junkie in
Yeah.
the
And he's
summertime.
just like
Yeah.
sweating. He's just like sweating constantly. I'm like, oh man, he must be cutting weight really hard to make 160. Geez. And I thought to myself, well, I'm still gonna cut the way that I normally cut to 155. The only difference is the day of the weigh-ins, when I wake up at 160 and I dieted down to that, I don't have to cut 5 pounds of water. Cool. And then the day before the weigh-ins, they say, Mac, this is going to be at 165 instead of 160. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, it's because that's what Sakurai can make. And I'm like, yeah, but the contract says 160. And so I call Monty, and Monty's like, Mac, don't say anything. Don't cause any problems. Don't rock the boat. We're just lucky that they don't say it's 170, because they could just say it's 170 if they wanted to. And I was like, dude, I'm paying this guy. He's supposed to be working for me. He's supposed to be like sticking up for me. And then instead they're letting this happen. I mean, any other time they would take money from the guy's purse or something like that. I mean, there's a reason why they have that system going. And so I was just like, whatever. And yeah, I mean, let's face it, like he was just a better fighter at the time. So there's no excuses on my part. It's just like he win it. He came in. I came in the ring at 162 probably, because that's what I was walking at fully hydrated, and he was easily like, between 175 and 180, but great fighter, man. It was awesome to get kicked by him, because this is what I did with every single one of my losses. I took a little bit of what that guy did, and I made it my own. And so, like, people that spar with me know about my leg kicks, and it's probably because I felt his, so.
Well, if you look at the trajectory of your career, you went on a 12 fight win streak, and now you're upside down twice.
Yeah. Yeah, I had it was a hard time for me after that loss to Sakurai. So the Sakurai fight was the first time that I ever made decent money at that point in my career. And what I mean by decent money, it was good money to me. It was $10,000. That's more money than I had made for
Your entire King of the
possibly
Cage
all
run.
of my King
And
of
it's
the
like
Cage
that's
fights.
eight
Yeah, yeah.
fights.
And so I was happy. It was the first time that I was able to, because I was broke all these years. I mean, I was broke. Like I was the first time I was able to spend money on something other than food and gas. And so I went out and bought myself a camera because I was like, I love photography and I want to get a good camera. So I spent a few $100 on a good camera. And it was kind of cool, but at the same time, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do because I'm coming off two losses now, and I I I don't know what's available for me. And I remember the guys at Legends said they were talking to Scott Coker, and at the time there was talks about me fighting Josh Thompson, and they said that the pay would be like 5-5, and I was like, that sounds cool. I'll fight Josh. Like that's a good fight. That he's a top five guy. I would love to do that. That fight never materialized, and I was thinking about retiring or just because there were no opportunities. I was discouraged too, and I felt like, oh, here's my chance to actually do something, and I get into this big organization, and then the organization gets bought, and and but then Monty was telling me, no, when they buy Pride, they're gonna buy your contract, so you'll get a fight too. I was like, okay, that's waiting, 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 and then all of a sudden, the people from the Ultimate Fighter hit me up.
You know what's wild? You never fought Kit Kope, Alberto Crane, or Rob McCullough. Those are all like doable fights
Yeah.
within driving distance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the first and the last that you mentioned, I would have won those fights handily. Alberto Crane is a great guy. He would present some issues. I think I would win that one too, probably, but yeah, Kid Cope, yeah, that dude, yeah. Don't
But
make me
what
pull
I'm
out
saying
the
is
East Coast
like
cow.
those are all like within reaching distance, and
Yeah.
none of those fights happened.
Yeah, me and Kid Cope were talking trash to each other online, and there was supposed to be a fight between me and him in the WEC. It never materialized. Yeah, yeah, I don't know why. A lot of things just didn't happen for me, and having Monty as my manager on paper, it's like, wow, this is the manager of Matt Hughes and Rich Franklin and Jeremy Horn, and this manager can get you in anywhere. But there was a lot of avenues he didn't have, and like WEC, for example, was one of them. So, you know,
Yeah, Dana and company, they worked very hard against Monty. Like
interesting.
locker room bonuses. I mean, that was pretty much the Monte Cox rule. Only X amount of fighters per weight class.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, they worked really, really hard. Man, like even Jens Pulver didn't thank him at his Hall of Fame ceremony.
Monty.
Monte Cox was not thanked in Jens Pulver. Like
Well,
I'm trying to
who
save
knows
that for
what's
an
going
interview.
on between those guys and what has happened between them, but I can tell you that like Monty is one of those guys. He's just like, I mean, he like talk to you and get you, like conversating in a nice way, but he just skirts all the issues and he just does what he wants to do. And he helped me in ways, and I gotta say, like, thank you to him in certain ways, but he kind of screwed me over in other ways too. And he took a lot of money for having 30-second phone calls with people. And I don't know, man. I mean, did I mention, I mean, I was paying him a percentage of all my King of the Cage fights, the 1250 and 1250. I mean, I was paying him for that. He never did got any sponsors for anybody. I don't know, man. I think there's a reason why Matt left them, and I don't know. I'll leave that between those guys, but who knows, I'm not saying, dude, I met many snakes, and Monty's not the shadiest snake by any means, and he's a good guy in some ways, but I think a lot of these people kind of like did fighters wrong in a way. Like maybe they didn't scam them completely, but they took more than they should have, and they really didn't contribute all that much. That's what I think.
Man, dude, Joey, like the depth, we haven't even touched his UFC career, which
Uh-oh. You guys are gonna
which
have to
is
get me for part three.
A
dude.
hell of a lineup
Here,
once
like
you're in the
that's where
UFC.
that's where I'm kind of like balking right here. You're running the UFC. Oh,
No favors.
No.
no, but it's interesting too. Like in his losses, it's fight of the night, and a guy like Joe Silva who doesn't mince words with people, and certainly he's had his fair share of people going after him online after he retired.
Yeah.
He seemed to like you, like genuinely like you.
This is the one thing, like so I'm pretty much like I'm deeply involved in this lawsuit, the class action lawsuit. And so I'm talking with fighters all the time. We have like a giant group chat with fighters that are in the lawsuit, and no one has anything good to say about Joe Silva. I mean, Gray Maynard is my closest friend in the sport, and
Did
he
him
has
ugly.
nothing good to say about Joe Silva. Mike Pierce has nothing good to say about Joe Silva. DeMarcus Johnson, nothing good to say about Joe Silva. For
Matt
whatever
Serra.
reason,
Matt
Matt
Serra.
Serra, for whatever reason, maybe I just got lucky. I don't know, but I never had a problem with him. He never rubbed me the wrong way. He always was straight with me. And yeah, he threw me to the wolves, but in a way, that's what I wanted. I mean, if you're a matchmaker who reads the interviews and stuff, all I was saying the whole time I was in King of the Cage, the whole time I made it into the UFC was, I just want to fight the best fighters in the world. I just want to fight the best. And that's what I always said. And so he's like, here, like, I might not be giving you like a title shot because you haven't earned it yet. So you don't fight the best. Like, you don't fight Sean Shirk this very moment, but like, you're gonna fight all the nails, and that's just the way it is. And so um I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it really. And like when I had my third loss in a row, when it was Jim Miller,
Yeah.
like he watched that fight, and I was just, that's the whole thing.
Gushing blood.
You lose three and you're out. And at the end of that fight, there was like less than a minute left, and I just turned it around, and I just like went off and trying to finish him, and I like, almost turned the tide. And
Almost hit a guillotine.
he came up to me and he was just like, dude, you fought your ass off. I'm not going to cut you. And I was just like, thanks, man. Like, I never had a bad relationship with him. I'm not saying he's not a bad guy because I don't know. And so many people say that he was a bad guy, but I never had a problem with him.
Hey, hey, if let me kind of counterbalance this. You're the type of guy to where somebody says something slick, you're gonna like, no matter what you're doing. Oh, let's hit pause here. Say it again. Let's discuss this. Like a lot of the guys that you mentioned, as tough as they are, wouldn't address it the way you would.
Yeah.
And it's pain. It's quite like apparent that, I mean, Joe kind of like to say that slick stuff to people. Yeah, like Lytle and Matt Serra, they really bonded, not over fighting with each other, but just looking at each other going, man, I thought we were cool. Like you requested to fight me, and the other person going, wait a minute. He told me that you requested to fight me. And they looked at each
Yeah.
other and they're like, wait a minute. We're not lying to each other. And they confronted Joe.
Yeah.
Like, they love talking about it. They do. And it's like,
Yeah. I never had that experience with the guy, man. He was always
you're not the
respectful
guy
to
to
me.
test. That's why.
Let me say this. When I retired, I knew that my last fight in the UFC was going to be my last fight. That I went into that knowing. I was the only one who knew. Maybe my close friends like Dan Hardy, he knew, but like I knew it was going to be the end, and whether I won or not. And when I lost, it was my third loss, so I had another 3 fight skid. And when he called me to give me that call, which I knew was coming, he thanked me I think he's this isn't verbatim, I'm paraphrasing, but he said thank you for putting your body on the line for so many fights for us and all the fans, and like I appreciate it. And I was just like, cool, man, like I just felt that I was respected. Really, what is this all about? I mean, like fighters, like all of us in life, like we want respect no matter what channel that we use in life. And when someone gives that to me, I can't really have a problem with them. But the disrespect that he evidently showed to a lot of people.
Joe Riggs, he tortured Joe Riggs.
Yeah, I knew Joe. I knew Joe
Yeah.
very well. Yeah, he and I haven't really talked in a long time, but yeah, Joe and I knew each other really well. It makes sense, maybe Joe Silva was one of those people who like a shark smells blood in the water, like he sees weakness and he just goes after it. I mean, Joe Riggs is an amazing fighter. He just, he never had the mind for it, and
Yeah.
yeah, you know.
Well,
I can't.
if Joe Silva made a habit out of making phone calls at the end of people's careers and giving them that respect, everybody else is keeping it a secret because we
Yeah.
haven't heard that from anybody else.
No,
Yeah, man. I made, I mean, not that anybody even, really read it. I mean, I'm sure some people did, but
I read it.
I made a
Yeah.
retirement like thing, like a
Yeah.
few paragraphs, and I thanked him because he was the one guy I felt that no matter what, like, when you work for the UFC, you got all these employees in the UFC, and you're a fighter and you're winning, and they're all like, yeah, it's you, and we love you because you're winning. And then you lose a fight, you lose 2 fights, they don't even want to fucking talk to you. You get treated so differently. Dana treats you differently. The employees, the like all the other people in the organization, they all treat you differently. And even when they're kind of nice to you, they kind of give you like a little pity smile. I can't even tell you how many times people would give me that fucking pity smile, like, oh, there he is again, coming off another loss. Never once did I get that vibe from Joe. Like, and I just felt like he had been around for a while, and like he was around. Like, I remember him being interviewed by Jeff Osborne after hook and shoot stuff. Like, I don't even know who this
I,
guy is.
I
He was
remember
at
him
Abu
from
Dhabi.
those
He was
days.
getting
Yeah.
interviewed.
Yeah.
He just worked himself into the sport, worked himself into this position. I didn't know that he was like this little tyrant who was
Hmm.
like making fighters' lives miserable. I didn't really know that. I just knew him as a dude that was like that understood me. That's the way I felt. Maybe maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought.
If you look at like the handing off like of the baton of UFC matchmaking, it goes Art Davie, John Peretti, Joe Silva, and then obviously Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby.
Hmm.
That's not a lot of people in a
Yeah,
30-year period.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was surprised you got it. In fact, I don't think we're throwing theory out. When you look at Peretti, he ends in like at what's called 32, 33. And then they go into Vegas. It's Joe Silva. And in Las Vegas, Joey, what was it called? The first one?
What, victory in Vegas?
I think it was knockout, right? With no knockouts.
Yeah. It had two
Was it
fights
that?
ended with the finish. Everything else was decision, but I
Okay.
think it was victory in Vegas.
Okay. So it's regarded as like their lost,
Yeah.
their worst event ever in their company history.
Hmm.
I'm going through 1 through 50. I'm at like 32 right now. My belief is they brought in Jeff Osborne in order because they put him in a commentary, and I know the Fertitas couldn't stand him in commentary, but they also I think they brought him in because they didn't believe in Joe Silva because of that awful entrance into Vegas, and then once they believed in him, they kind of put Jeff by the wayside. That's my belief. It's my theory. I can't. It's still in its beginning stages. I'll know probably in the next 10 days when I get through
Mm.
the rest of the UFCs.
Mhm. Yeah.
I just went on a tangent.
Yeah,
Please,
it's
Mac,
That's why
save
he's
me.
the MMA detective.
Save me, Mac. I just fucking talking for some of the time. No,
I'm a
it's
Mr.
good.
Tangent.
So here, we're gonna end with this. The Ultimate Fighter. Did you get an interview going in, or were you in right away?
So this is the way that it worked for the 15 other guys. They had to do tryouts.
Right.
So in the tryouts, they evaluated you or had you hit pads or roll around or something. I don't know. Those guys all went to the tryouts and then they passed the tryouts and then were taken into the interview thing a few weeks later. I was the only guy who didn't do the tryouts. They were like, "Oh, you just fought in Pride. Like, are you willing to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, 170 is not my weight class." And they're like, "Well, take it or leave it." And I'm like, "Well, I'll take it." And so I did it, and I will tell you that the interview thing, they 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 took you around for like a day or two doing medicals first. And the theory that a lot of these guys had was they wanted to see if you're on steroids because they might not be able to use you right away if you're on steroids or if you're like a drug person or whatever. But when it comes down to it, I don't think they really cared if you had weed in your system or anything like that. I think they were just trying to get the medicals out of the way and make sure that nobody had any major problems. And then with the next day in the interviews, I was so nervous. I mean, like I tell you, I was at this point where I thought I was gonna have to retire, and I had one big fight, and I was like, maybe that's it for me. I had my big fight in Pride against Sakurai. I made 10 grand. Maybe that's it for me, and that's what I was thinking. Then I get this opportunity, and I'm like, man, I gotta ace this. Like, what do I do? Like, I don't have the personality that these people expect me to have and all this stuff. And so what I did was I was just like I was standing in there, I was in this waiting room before you go into the big room with the producers, and I was like, I'm confident and I gotta believe in myself. And I just went in there and I was kind of like an I wouldn't say I was arrogant, but I was just like, yeah, dude, I got this. And they were like, that was my shtick. It was something I found that I could play. Like it wasn't fake. It was just, it was a part of me that I could channel authentically. And I was just like, that's who I'm gonna be. Instead of being like, well, yeah, I'm happy to be here and been training a
Just a
while.
real nice guy.
Yeah, I was just like, no one here is going to beat me, and that's the thing is, see, I didn't get worried because when I went to do the interviews and everything, none of the players at 170 that I expected to be there were there. Mike Pyle wasn't there. Uh, Jake Shields wasn't there, and I was like, dude, like who are these guys? Like who are these dudes? Like they got like purple mohawks and they're trying to like play this whole thing up, and I'm just like, man, I got this. And so when I went in the interview, they were like, well, what do you think about this guy? And I'm like, I don't think anything about him. Like, and I was really short about everything. And I think that's why they put me in, because they needed that. They had all these different personalities and all these different types of people, and they needed the guy who was like, fuck you, I'm here to win. And that's
Okay, but did they contact you or did your people reach out to them?
so what happened was Andy Wang was on season 5
Yeah.
and he gave them reference of me. He felt bad because you know what happened? Andy was supposed to corner me in my fight against Clay French. He got the opportunity to do the Ultimate Fighter, and they were like, do not tell anyone. Do not even tell your parents. Do not tell anyone that you're going to do this show. No one can know who the contestants are. No one can know anything about this. So he didn't tell me. He was like, Max, sorry, I can't make it. And I'm like, why? Why? And he's like, I can't make it. He had to go and do this. He felt shitty about that and probably about how the whole thing went for him too. And when he came back, he was like trying to get me in with them because he was trying to do me a favor because, like he felt like he owed me one maybe. And he's just my friend. He's always done me
That's
favors. So
cool.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and so he gave me the reference, and they called me up and they were like, "Can you send a video?" And I was like, "Yeah," and I made a little VHS video and I sent it to them, and then
Mm.
they were like, "Can you do these interviews and medicals?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Right. But you knew your roommate obviously was on Tough Five as well, Gabe Ruediger.
Hmm.
And as we had talked about in the first interview, they spent a lot of money to make sure that like he didn't look really good in a positive light.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
big of a concern was that of yours going into that?
Oh, it was huge. The entire cast on my season, at least I can speak for the Matt Hughes team that I was on. Okay. Those 8 guys, including me, we were hyper aware of the idea of being portrayed wrong. Like extremely aware to the point where we were censoring ourselves. We didn't want to say the wrong thing. We didn't want to do the wrong thing. Even Matt Hughes had a moment where he had said some things that were off color, and he pulled the other guy aside and was like, "Hey, can you make sure when they interview you today, you don't talk about that because I don't need to be played this way." And so you got to understand, it's this 6th season. We've had 5 seasons of people being exploited, and like, the Jason Thacker guy or whatever, like all
Yeah.
these people just like,
Lieben,
yeah, they just like making everybody just look terrible. And so
Koscheck, everybody. Yeah.
we were super aware of that. And because of that, we were not giving them the content they wanted, because they wanted us to just go buck wild and talk shit on each other and do all this other stuff. And we were like, kind of like, fuck, like I don't want to be portrayed as this guy. And so yeah, that was a major concern going in for sure.
Did Rudiger give you any advice going in?
No, because he and I had a falling out at the
Okay.
time. We were not cool. Like
Okay.
we were not okay at that time. And but Andy and Gray both told me that it's very tough. And it's difficult being there. It's difficult doing it. And that's about all they could say. Gray tried to give me a few pointers and tips about the whole thing, but it was hard. Like, I've healed from that experience for sure. So I'm
Okay.
okay with it now. I'm
Okay.
okay with it now. It's okay, but like I will tell you that I was probably scarred for about 2 years or so.
No
Like emotion
way.
from being in that whole thing. It was very difficult. You can't like, on paper it's like, well, what are you doing? You're not working, you're just training, and you get to be on a TV show. I mean, like, what's the big deal?
You're in
It's
jail.
Yeah,
It's like
you're
prison.
yeah, you're in minimum security prison,
Yeah.
100%. And so like, there's no contact to or from the outside world. There's no books, no reading material, no magazines, no music. You can't have music. You can't interact with anyone except for the people on the show. If you try to talk to the cameraman, he won't talk to you. Like, he won't look at you. He won't make eye contact with you. I
Yeah, it's his
remember,
job. Yeah,
yeah,
So
he
I
could lose he'll
remember,
lose his job.
so you're stuck
yeah.
with War Machine for 6 weeks.
Luckily, so unlike most other seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, this season everybody's segregated. Once the teams were picked on the first day or whatever it was, everyone split. The Matt Serra guys all went into their side of the house, and the Matt Hughes guys went to their side of the house. No other season was it like this. If you watch every other season, and now I stopped watching after my season, so I don't know about the ones after, but every season before that, everybody is intermingled, and people that are going to fight each other are bunking together and all this stuff. It was not like that. We were all completely separated, and I didn't have nothing to do with those guys really.
Mhm.
I felt bad about Joe Scarola because of just the way it went down, and the way they portrayed him wasn't really right either. I mean, yeah, it was bullshit that he quit the way he did, but as soon as I saw him, he didn't want to do it. And he and I knew each other a little bit, because my first ever grappling tournament, I did a Naga in 2001, maybe 2001, and I was in the beginner division, and I got to the finals against his student, and I lost to his student. And I remember he had a little tiny thing in full contact fighter, Joe Scarola. He's like was a brown belt or purple belt or something under Matt Serra at the time. So I knew him, and he and I knew each other. And then when I saw him, like I was like, hey, what's up? And we kind of chopped it up, and we were cool. And then 2 days later, bam, I'm fighting him. And I had to put it on him. And then
Yeah.
after it, he didn't want to have nothing to do with it. And the way that they treated him, I mean,
Dude, he
Matt
lost
Serra
his
disowned
job.
him. Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt Serra disowned him as a friend. He was Matt Serra's
Instructor.
he was his best man at his wedding, dude.
Oh wow.
He was his best man at his wedding. He said, if you do this, like I'm not, like I pulled so many strings to get you on here. Like if you do this, we're not cool anymore. And they 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 were close friends, and that ended it.
He's in Florida teaching at a Gracie Baja now. I went crazy looking for him.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't I got we're doing a little trivia now on the channel. Like once a week, we drop a super friggin' dorky trivia question that nobody that procreates should
Yeah.
actually be able to answer it. And I gotta count how many times Matt Serra's ever cornered or Sarah Longo have ever cornered anybody. There's only been 2 times that somebody from their camp has ever tapped out. This one and Eddie Truck. Like
Hmm.
Eddie Truck's last fight, one of his last 2 fights in the UFC. Out of
That's an interesting fact.
all of those
Yeah.
fights, both the Ultimate Fighter related, not a single person has ever they've been choked unconscious, they've been
Yeah.
knocked out, they've broken their legs, they've lost fights, but they have always ridden out on their shield.
Joey didn't want to be there, man. He didn't want
No.
to be there, and that's not why he tapped. He tapped because I fucking put a good triangle on him. But he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to do it from the beginning, and you could tell that he did not know what he was getting into. And that happened with the Noah guy or whatever from season 1 or 2, right? The dude who
Right.
wanted to be with his girlfriend. This was like the same type of thing, and I knew
Season two, I
what I
think.
was
Yeah.
getting into with this show. And so and when they kicked him out, and then the producers had a little meeting with us, and they were like, like this guy, they were like talking shit on him, and Dana was talking shit on him. And dude, I was like, this is fucked up. Like, this whole thing is fucked up. And this is one thing I never liked. And I talked to some of the fighters that are involved in the lawsuit about this. I mentioned this like forced infantilism bullshit that they always tried to pull. You know how many times you've got a group of fighters who are all bad motherfuckers who worked their ass off to be there, and then you got Dana talking down to them, telling them how it's the best opportunity of their lives and they better not blow it, and you motherfuckers better blah 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 blah. Like, being involved in that type of thing, I never was down with that. Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't hate Dana or nothing, but that way of talking to fighters and treating them all like I'm the principal here and you guys are just students, and you better fucking not get sent to my office, and you better listen to me. That type of attitude, and the way that these fighters just groveled and ate it up, and were just like, and then he'd make a stupid joke, and they'd all go,
Oh
they'd
yeah.
all, it was degrading. And I never felt good about that. And they pulled that shit on that show a lot, and he threw his weight around in that way, and I never bowed down to that stuff. I was never gonna be that guy.
Joe, you mentioned like War Machine. I tell you,
Yeah.
Dorian Price, he's fought for me before. He's a handful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dorian is awesome. Yeah, yeah. Good guy, man. Yeah,
I mean, he's somebody that you got to be careful of too.
yeah. He's a tough dude. Yeah, yeah. He's a tough guy and a good person too. I would say
Yeah.
that about him. He's a good person. Yeah, yeah.
And look at another guy, Troy Mandaloniz. That's the guy that BJ Penn is claiming is like a CIA agent.
Oh.
I will say this, I don't know what Troy has been doing with his life for the past however many years. I have not kept in touch with him. He and I weren't really close on the show or anything. He was friends with Richie Hightower, so just like yeah, like that didn't have nothing to do with him. He if he has anything to do with the CIA, may God help the CIA.
Huh.
Like I don't I they must be really reaching or something.
I
And we
think I think BJ's got some problems
BJ's
going on.
got some
Yeah,
problems
yeah,
Yeah, he
going
yeah,
does.
on. Yeah.
yeah,
BJ took a lot of shots
yeah.
in his life and took them like a champ that he is, but it all comes back on you, That's one of the reasons why I retired. I still deal with some issues in that way, so but
Joey, we're hour and 50. We haven't even really touched his UFC career.
I'm
Well,
so
then we have to
sorry.
have
I
him back.
I ramble too much. It's the
No,
problem.
no, no, no. The thing is, Mac, like, I really wish those podcasts. If I think if I had to pick one point in your career and I go, hey man, you're really missing here. I really wish you would have kept doing that podcast. It
Yeah,
was friggin' good, dude.
I know. Yeah, part of me still wants to do it. It's just, I like this idea of fighters talking to other fighters. But other people are doing that now. Other guys have done that now. And I think there was something that I had to offer because fighters are comfortable around me because I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Like they understand me and they know I understand them and that's why like when I retired I thought I could get a job in the UFC. I just thought that they would naturally find a way for me to work in with them and they didn't. They just kind of shit canned me. So I was like, you know, I was kind of miffed about that for a while, and it was a hard time after that. But yeah, I mean the whole podcast thing, man. It's like part of me wanted to do it, and me and Rogan were kind of close. I mean, we're more like super close, but we were talking a lot at the time, and I did his
Yeah,
show.
your appearance was great.
Yeah, and I kind of tried to like let that be a springboard for the podcast, but I just didn't have the time or resources. And dude, honestly, man, like I I was like a single dad. Like I was a single parent and I had a beautiful little kid to take care of and trying to train for fights in the UFC at the same time.
Yeah, no,
Be a
no, no,
monster. It was
no.
tough. I had no
It,
support. So
it,
so trying to do extracurricular stuff like that, like a podcast,
you
and
got to be all in.
it was
Yeah,
tough. Yeah, you
yeah,
do. You do. Yeah, you
yeah.
guys know that. I mean, like if you just dabble, and you have like one podcast every, 6 months or 3 months or something, it ain't gonna work. You're
No.
you're
Uh,
you're on it. You're putting out content. You're doing it because you guys like doing it, and it's like that's what you got to do. And I didn't have the time and I didn't have the energy. And then whenever I hit,
you hit though. Like that was it was like at the right time, at the right moment, with the right person. With
So these episodes are not available now.
nah, he
You
made him
can't check them out.
private, dude. He made
Why
him
would you do
private.
it? Why'd you make it private?
I
I
found
don't know,
old
man.
links, dude. I
Oh, you
found
didn't
old
like.
links.
Yeah.
I understand that like my like I really wanted to just I was bitter for a long time about the sport, about fans, um, about the whole thing in general. I was bitter about the way it all ended up for me. And
Right.
and I'm not talking about me losing. Like I take my losses, I take my wins.
Yeah,
I was just I was really starting to see the ugly side of this, and I kind of let that overshadow the good. And so I was like, fuck everybody. You know what I mean? Like not everybody, but I just kind of wanted to turn my back on it because my identity was wrapped up in this sport for better or for worse. And when you lose it, when you have to retire and you're faced with all these criticisms, like I just sort of was like, why am I giving anymore? Because I wasn't able to hear all the good voices. I wasn't able to hear people like you being like, hey, I like this. This is worth doing. Keep doing this. you guys, people like you were saying that, but I was just hearing the criticisms, and I was just like,
That's
fuck
crazy.
everybody,
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
It is my own fault, but yeah, I mean, I could, if I can access that account again, I'll make it public.
Dude,
Yeah.
I went crazy looking for it, and I found two or three old links, and it said private, which I'm like, wait a minute, that means it still exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still up there.
Yeah,
I would just
yeah.
need to I would just need to get into that YouTube account, and that might be prove a little bit hard, but if I can do
Yeah.
that, then I can make it. I
Oh,
can
it's good stuff.
list them again.
So
Yeah.
you've got your own gym now, though, right?
Oh man, we
Yeah.
should have started with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I we run a gym here in Central Oregon. Yeah.
Just one daughter you have, right?
Yeah, just one daughter. I have two stepdaughters, but
That's
they're
cool.
all in their 20s, and they have moved out and everything. But yeah, my daughter, she's 16, and she actually just got back home from wrestling practice. So after we wrap it up here in a little while, I'm gonna talk to her and see how that went and everything. She's got a big tournament this weekend, so
So how does somebody in Oregon find your gym? What's it called? Where's
it's called Danzig MMA, and it's in Bend, Oregon. And Bend is like the main city in Central Oregon. There's a few other towns nearby, but yeah, they can go to danzigmma.com and check it out. And yeah, we run a good gym. My wife and I we got out of LA about 7 years ago, and we picked here to move. We didn't really know anyone here, but we just did a bunch of research and a bunch of recon, and decided this was where we wanted to end up, and so that's where we ended up. Yeah.
nice?
Joey, they've got a phenomenal independent film festival there. Todd Luby is the creator of it. Yeah, Bend, Oregon is beautiful, beautiful place,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I like it. Man,
Yeah.
you absolute let's wait a little bit and we gotta do this again.
Let's do it. Yeah. Later on the summer or whenever you guys want.
No. You let us know when you're ready. No, because
I'm always
we could,
ready.
yeah,
Here's
because
the
we can
thing.
always just save it.
I want to tell you, like, I appreciate the ability to kind of tell my story a little bit. You know what I mean? There's so much to tell and
Oh
everything.
yeah.
Who knows what we touch on and what we don't touch on, but like, I mean, I got a lot more stories about the Ultimate Fighter if you ever got
We haven't
time.
even started it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, I know. I got a lot of content for you, but I appreciate like real fans like you guys that like appreciated the fighters and are trying to keep a record of this era of the sport, because this era is easily forgotten, because anyone can look back at like the whole like Emmanuel Yarborough era, and
Yeah.
like, wow, that was crazy. This actually happened, and they can kind of point at it, but like the space from there until, like 10, 15 years ago is a space that's slowly getting lost,
Oh yeah.
and the UFC doesn't go out of their way to really promote this,
The
talk.
erase people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course they raced Randy Couture as good as they could.
John
Like,
Peretti. Yeah. Dave
Yeah.
Benet. Frank
yeah.
Shamrock.
Maurice Smith. I mean, they even allowed Maurice Smith to be in their little Hall of Fame bullshit thing, but like, people have forgotten about Maurice. Maurice was awesome. Maurice Smith, dude. Like, to topple Mark Coleman at that time, that was a
Oh yeah.
daunting task, and he pulled it off. Who's gonna beat this giant steroid guy? It's fucking Maurice Smith did it. So anyway. I appreciate the fact that you guys are
Nah.
like making this type of thing happen, because I don't want to talk to a lot of people, and like I I just I talk to the right people, so
I will say not many like to talk to me, but Joey, he tends to do a little bit better.
that's
But Mac, honestly, man, an absolute pleasure. Your story is actually, I mean, we're 4 hours in. It's just starting to get told.
yeah.
That's what's crazy.
Maybe I'll write a book one day if I can remember everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just like I'm always like kind of like needling it. Oh, fuck! It was at 1:30 at night. Boom. You know what I mean? Those little tiny things
Were
like
you
that.
there for that one?
I think Joey may have been.
I went to a lot of the King of the Cages. Yeah, I was at that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
in
18,
Chicago.
18 fights on that card. Yeah, I went.
Yeah. And I bet half of them were amateur and not getting paid,
Oh yeah,
like just but they sold tickets, so
they got a
that's
piece of
why
the
they
ticket
were
sale.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, I only went to the King of the Cages like in Ohio because I'm in Chicago. So
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
little too, California was just a little too far. Anyway, Mac, please go enjoy your family time. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Couple weeks.
Couple weeks sounds good. I'm
All right,
down.
man. Take care,
All right,
brother.
thank you.
Thanks, Joey.
Man,
He's a good interview.
dude. Joey, why don't we talk about the swag that we're wearing?
The new MMA history podcast shirts.
How do you think people get one of these, Joey?
How do they get one? Book us a good guest. Send Mike $50. I don't know. You tell me. How do we get them?
Well, here I'm going to tell you how you're almost there. Let me pull it up right now. We need creative ways. I don't want to sell them. Like truth be told, I don't want to sell them. You guys got to be creative. Figure out how you earn it, and we'll send them out. Like I'd rather give them away for free than actually sell them. I mean, I know that's not a real good business plan, but
I mean, if you got a big following on Instagram and you repost our trivia, that'd be a good one.
Make the news. Maybe like a high-speed chase in California with.
Oh yeah, Rampage style.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. I want to read a review, and this is, there's issues here, Joey. I want to see, like, we have not done this prior. I want to see if you can catch the mistake of this review. First off,
All right.
5 stars. Great job. Great MMA interviews. Dom from Philly. I've been listening for years and really appreciate Mike working to put out great content. They have some great guests over the years and really seem to be hitting their stride. This was March 28th, 2025.
So we're hitting our stride now. Okay, I'll take
No. Let's rewind it a little bit. I've been listening for years. March 28th, 2025.
Yeah, why couldn't you have given us a review years ago? I mean, better late than never, but why wait?
Dom from Philly. He's not getting a t-shirt, dude.
He's not getting it.
No.
Well, I didn't leave a review till like 3 months ago, so I'm not too mad at him.
And I accused you of your using your child's phone. On top of that, Dom from Philly, let me get your wife's phone, get your kid's phone, leave 1 or 2 more reviews, put your name in there, you're getting a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to go the extra mile for us. We're going the extra mile.
No. Listening for years. I'm like, so I've always kind of felt like a douchebag going, hey guys, you got to like, share, subscribe. I even like took like a class, like maybe there's a counterbalance here. Let me know how I should say it, why I should say it. And all it did was kind of like fortify me going, hey guys, in mid-interview, wait 1 second, Mac, before you kind of talk to us about some management or, your experiences at King of the Cage, if you guys can post your city, I'll personally put a heart on it. And please tell us where you're from in the comments. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'm not that guy. Like I'm not begging for change. You know what I mean? Right. It's just like, I don't want your $20 for a t-shirt. I'm going to mail it to you for free. You know what I mean? Like I know. I can't do it. Like that Irish stubbornness.
On the positive note, our numbers are looking good though. We've been doing better.
Well, okay, so dude, here's the thing. My time at Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship has been incredible. Wait, dude. We also got stickers, bro.
Yeah.
Dude, look at for your car. We've also got car stickers too. So I meet a lot of people along the way, and I met somebody that manages social media influencers.
Yeah.
And I got along with the guy. I'm like, I actually like this person. And he was telling me, yeah, you should probably get verified, blah, 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 blah. And I just said, dude, give me 5 minutes of your time on the phone. I want to send you my numbers. I want you to take a look at them. So our YouTube gets about 27,000 like views, maybe 2,500 hours of view time a month. Mm-hmm. And then you go to our Spotify, we're in the top 10 of, like, you look up MMA podcasts, we're at number 9 right now. As of recording this video, we're at number 9, and we keep bumping. So like we're getting like 52,000, like as of today, 50,000 downloads this month, right, on Spotify. I don't know how to monetize that. And if I were to take time to monetize that, what would probably happen is I wouldn't be able to create like we do in this. Like, hey, dude, you started at 1:30 in the morning. Like I don't think I can do both, and it takes too much energy from me. And it's just like, fuck it. So I explained to him there's a huge difference between the two. And the issue is I also put shorts, like those little 30-second, 45-second things on YouTube. So I'm telling you, hey, dude, we're at like 27,000 views a month. But the reality is the overwhelming majority of that is with our clips.
The shorts, yeah.
So I'm getting 50,000+ downloads on 2-hour videos on Spotify and maybe 10,000 on YouTube.
Or being shadow banned.
There's a thumb on the scale. So he's like, well, that ain't right. No, there's certainly something wrong there. And then my response is, well, there's like, here, you want to talk about the earth going horizontally? I don't want to say it. I know that's a trigger word there. Like if I'm wearing this shirt and I say, if you doubt MMA history, you doubt me. I am MMA history. 2 weeks for YouTube algorithm to not flatten the curve. Not flatten the curve. Yeah. Okay. So if I were to like say something like that and like name that person,
right,
which we don't do.
No, we don't.
Like we don't do that. Maybe we interviewed a former bodyguard of a prolific businessman that liked to operate in an island in the Caribbean.
Had his own plane and an island.
We pretty politically connected. Certainly yielded his influence across like with geneticists in college. But he touched on it, not us.
Yeah.
And then I told him that. I go, hey man, maybe this is the issue. But like I made it so nobody could share it. I never clipped it. I never like pushed it out there. Just like that's not what we do, you know? And he was telling me there's shadow banning and then there's flags.
Wouldn't we know if we got flagged?
Here's the thing. And dude, I might have to have a conversation with this guy that's like incredibly uncomfortable. And I'm going to have to produce a police report. We had 2 channels at one time. One channel was for long form and one channel was for clips. We're on that clips channel because the long form channel got banned.
Right.
And the reason that it got banned made me have to file a police report and tell the person who I've had a 25 year plus relationship with that he's got to see himself out the door.
Right. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of why I'm here, actually.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm here. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if that comes up, I mean, we might have to abandon this channel. Hey, here, the reason I didn't want to come public with all that is because he's on past interviews. And those past interviews that he's on, I don't want to erase them.
No, some of them are really good.
They're really good, dude. And I don't want to erase him. You know, he's gone. It's a rearview mirror well over a year ago. And
I think we should say that we're not talking about Chris Lytle right now.
no,
That's important. If I was Chris, I would really want somebody to say that.
That's that's a knock on the door I don't want.
Yeah, yeah. I want to piss off Lytle.
No. Dude, Lytle's, I just saw him earlier today.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris's travel schedule, like my travel schedule's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Dude, it's not even in the same stratosphere. Like it's not even the same ballpark. And it's like for me to try to, I'll probably pull him in twice this year, you know? Right. And then it's like we talk 3 times a week. Like he and I, that's my guy. The reason I work for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship today is because of him. So I mean, that's to pretend like it came from any other way. It's not true. It's Chris Lytle. But I don't know, dude. I don't know how it's going to shake out. But I know in the next 10 days, we're going to get an answer. And it might be an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah. Keep me posted.
Because I know that guy started another channel.
Oh, yeah.
And for some reason, it got taken down right away. They have like voice recognition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like not kidding. That's serious. That's serious. Yes. That's serious.
He messed up.
So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at, dude. So, get your t-shirts, get your stickers, figure it out. I would love to send these everywhere. I just sent out a package to Australia, $41 in shipping.
Jesus. More than the shirt.
Dude, and then I got to lie on the customs form saying it's like a $5 shirt, you know, because the guy specifically told me anything over $10. He's just like, please, dude, just please. I'm like, okay. So I'd like to ship out more of these. So you got your package.
I got it. Rocking it right now.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at, dude. How about yourself? How's the family? Everything?
Family's great. I got 2 crazy kids headed to bed, and I'm going to go put them down right now. Life is good.
Joey, see you next week, buddy.
See you next time.
Take care, man. Yep.